Happy Sunday, everybody. Good evening. Got a lot of stuff to go over tonight. Want to say thank you. If it's your first time checking out the show and I earned your sub, please hit that sub button, hit the like, and leave a comment if you'd like. Thank you, everybody, for hopping in tonight on the live. What's up, Dre? Please, 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 it's the freeway. Good evening, Pam. Thank you, Kip Kitty. How are you? Appreciate that. SRB, we missed you. Missed a good show last night. Prepping supper. What are you making? Aw, poor baby. Poor thing. And yes, if you love this intro, definitely hit the sub on Grismatically. Thank you again. Dog fed, hubby hugged. That's funny. Yes. Poor babies, yes. Uh-oh, we interrupted some karaoke. Thank you again for that awesome intro. Hopefully you're getting some subs. And I went out and went ahead and put the intro up with a little added flavor on the YouTube channel. So that way, even if somebody's not watching, they can see that you made it. I even put the your channel link in the description too. Thank you. I really appreciate it, Grizz. It's awesome. All right, we're going to turn this music down. Yes. So we'll go ahead and give you a rundown of what we got for tonight. We're going to start off with a couple background videos and such. We're going to recover the body being exhumed in the future here. All of those things. Then, after we do a little bit of the intro and the background of everything, in case it's somebody's first video they come across, just do a little quick background. Then we're going to go and do a couple clips, statements from the South Carolina Highway Patrol, South Carolina Sheriff. We're going to get into some articles. We're going to get into some photos. So we're going to be going over the statements and reports from the pathologist, the coroner, the highway patrol, the sheriff, all the LE involved. We'll be going over different articles pertaining to all of this, whether it's the evidence or the medical professionals or the LE involved. So tonight's show is basically just going to focus on those things of this case. Some stuff we've gone over, some stuff we haven't, some stuff we've seen, some stuff we haven't. So I'm excited for tonight. And we might have a guest tonight for a little bit. I'll keep you guys updated. All right, so I'm going to get into a video. And as always, if anybody would like to hop up on panel, you're more than welcome. We're just going to be focusing on the evidence, the reports. I'm telling you, this stuff, I was trying. I worked 8 hours today before the show on this stuff, and trying to find these documents is just crazy. Even trying to find the background information on the coroner, I was like, holy crap. But I got a lot of stuff for you guys tonight, so I'm excited. Appreciate you hanging out. Yeah, it was a long day before I got on the show, and I actually was like, you could probably tell because I didn't go live until maybe 2 minutes after. It was down to the wire. Head spinning. I'm interested to look at the information you'll have too, Pam. All right, so if anybody would like to hop up, you're more than welcome. We're going to get into a video that we checked out before. It's only about 12 minutes. It's from True Crime Design. We're going to be going back to their page later on in the show when we go through the evidence and such. I'll definitely give out a graphic warning prior to that. And I'll even let everybody know. All right, if you don't want to be this part of the show, then you need to skip ahead so and so minutes, and we'll see you on the turnaround. Unfortunately, there are some very tough topics or parts to this case that are hard to talk about, that are hard to cover, but it is a part of the case, and so to give every case justice, we need to do that. Yes, a trigger warning is correct. That's one thing I didn't. I need to make a trigger warning screen just to give everybody a heads up. All right. So we're going to thank you again, everybody, for hopping in and hanging out. If you want to hop up, just ask me for the link. I'll throw it out there. And we're going to get into this first video. It's from True Crime Design. And great channel. I'll go ahead and share that page real quick so you can see it. True Crime Design. And let me go ahead and update the link in the scroller thing. So we'll click that up there. That way we get the link up there as well. Scrolling at the bottom, don't forget, sub to True Crime Design. All right, so we're going to check out this video. This is the first video we're going to check out. Is the suspicious death of Stephen Smith. This is going to give everybody a background, just in case this is our first video hopping in here. And also, if it is your first time watching the show and it is the first video we come across, I do have the playlist in the description, so you can go from all the way from the first video all the way to the last as we keep updating this series here. True Crime Design. I'm ready to go too, Dre.
fields a tip about another possible suspect.
You're talking about a young man who's homosexual, who isn't hiding it, is very proud of who he is. You're talking about a small southern town.
It's taboo.
It's taboo.
Especially back then.
And he's wearing it proud. And somebody didn't like it. It clearly had to have been related to his sexuality, don't you believe, Mike?
100%. 100%.
I don't feel like it's a hit and run. I've looked at the body itself.
You know, a lot of people seem a little nervous to say the name Murdaugh.
Hampton County 911, where's your emergency?
We know that he was found at 4 o'clock in the morning on Sandy Run Road in Hampton. He was about a mile from his car. He had died of a horrific blunt force trauma to his head. His skull was fractured. His wallet was in his car. He had his cell phone, and he was not that far from his father's house where he lived.
A special accident investigative team looked at the case and determined it was a homicide, but a pathologist disagreed, saying he likely died from a mirror of a passing car hitting Stephen's face.
A heated discussion between Trooper Todd Proctor and pathologist Dr. Aaron reveals that the death was ruled this way because Smith was found in the road. Blue paint chips are found on Smith's clothes, but cannot be traced to a specific make or model.
It definitely was not a hit and run. He had blunt force trauma, and it seemed to be an intentional act, which we consider homicide.
Eric Bland, an attorney involved in several cases connected to Alec Murdaugh's numerous cases, knows Stephen Smith's mom, Sandy.
So we think he was dumped there on the road. He was a very sharp kid as a young man. He was cautious, and so he wouldn't have been walking down the road. He certainly knew the area. He had a cell phone, could have called somebody for
cases of people having been hit by cars. This is not the scene of a hit and run. There was no debris on the road.
There was no debris, lower extremities, nothing was broken, and his loosely tied sneakers were still on him, on his feet.
Yes.
They would have been blown off.
Yes.
If it was a hit and run.
Every time.
Every hit and run case I've ever touched,
shoes blow off.
they did not have their shoes on. A hit and run is extraordinarily violent. Extraordinarily violent. He had some abrasions, but not significant.
Inconsistencies in the initial investigation have left many wondering why his death was never investigated as a homicide.
It was clear that this case was not handled correctly. Why? I can't tell you. Maybe it was simply incompetence. Maybe it was purposeful, but I do believe that the truth is going to come out.
Sandy Smith was relentless in her quest for answers. She asked the FBI, the governor, and others to keep investigating, but the case went nowhere until Mallory Beach was killed on the Murdaugh boat 4 years later. People started asking questions about the old Stephen Smith case. Corporal Duncan told us the Murdaugh family name came up in his initial investigation, but that part of the investigation didn't go anywhere. And when asked if behind the scenes there was pressure to stop the investigation or to leave the case as a hit and run,
Personally, I think there was some type of pressure or just lack of the investigation upon other agencies to do anything.
But the real break in the Smith case came after the Murdaugh double murders. During that investigation, new information came to light. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division tells News Nation they've made progress in the death investigation of Stephen Smith. However, this investigation remains active and ongoing.
Why did they reopen the investigation?
It was something they found while they were investigating Paula Maggie's death, was all I was told. But what it is, I do not know. At first, I thought maybe it was something on his phone, Paul's phone. And then rumor was going out, they found something on his computer, and then they found a baseball bat. But I have no clue what it is, but I know I'm gonna know soon. Well, it was ruled by the pathologist that it was a vehicle versus pedestrian. But there was no damage anywhere. He had a dislocated right shoulder, and then all his eye socket was broke. The whole back of his head was crushed. And he had some defense wounds on him. His shoes were still on. It first came up when Stephen's body was still autopsy. And some of his friends came over, him and Stephanie's friends, and they said, it was them Murdoch boys that did this. And then I was like, and Stephanie come up to me crying, and I said, well, Steph, you can't believe everything you hear. People's going to talk, so. And then it was like, we never thought that. But then it just kept coming over and over and over again.
Reporter Will Folks with Fit News tells us Buster's name often came up with the Smith case.
And there was clearly a Murdoch tie-in to the death of Stephen Smith, because if you read investigatory report from his death back in 2015, the Murdoch name is mentioned dozens of times. In fact, this was one of the first files I ever received related to this story.
The oldest Murdoch son, Buster, was the same age as Stephen and his twin sister. Being from a small town, they all went to school together and everyone knew one another. As the multiple Murdoch cases have played out in the small Carolina community, rumors have swirled. After the news of Stephen's death came rumors that Buster and Stephen had some sort of relationship. The Smith family attorney says this.
They graduated high school together. They had friends in common, played ball together when they were younger. You can't say there's no connection. Nobody knows what Stephen's life was like. What I will say is that we know of no evidence that would support any kind of, relationship between Stephen and Buster.
But it was Alex Murdoch and his brother Randy who came to the scene of Stephen's death, going through the crime tape. No one sure why.
I know that soon after, Randy Murdoch had called. Randy is Alex Murdoch's brother.
When I was on the phone with Joel, he said, let me put you on hold because Randy Murdoch's calling. He said, Randy wants to take Stephen's case pro bono. And I was like, what case? Because they said it was a hit and run.
Did you think that call from Randy Murdoch was strange?
Yes, it made no sense to me.
Yeah. And
really, there was no case there yet.
Yeah, you didn't know it was a case.
And his law office has said that he didn't know Stephen had died until after the funeral.
Excuse me, but Alex Murdoch and Randy Murdoch were standing at the crime scene.
Oh, wow.
They were at the crime scene after Stephen's body was moved. Randy Murdoch called and asked, was that you that just passed by? I said, yeah. He said, I wish you would have stopped so I could have met you.
Wow.
At the crime scene.
Yeah. His office says that he never offered to represent the family in any way.
Well, if you can believe anything a Murdoch says.
SLED has released some of the interrogations and interviews regarding Stephen's case to the media.
The lead investigator at the time even voiced his doubts about this being a hit and run.
Typically, you don't see the highway patrol working a murder, and that's what this is.
Right. That was the lead investigator at the time, yet you still don't have answers, and you still don't know who did this.
Right.
This is either an extreme amount of corruption from very powerful people who were able to pull all of these strings, or everybody involved in this did not do their job, and that is very scary for the justice system too. Both sides, it's scary.
This is clips from CNN. It's a sit down that they have on there. I do have one that we can sit and watch just on a open topic night, where they kind of sit around and discuss. It's like a 45-minute thing. But I did find some stuff as I was doing some research today. There is some stuff on Netflix, but it's the Murdoch Murders podcast. Mandy Matney, I believe, is her name. She's one of the ones that was actually a part of the.
What do you believe happened to your son, Stephen?
The production.
I feel like they beat him to death because the only damage was to his head. And he did have some defense wounds. He had a dislocated shoulder. It had to be somebody he knew to put his body like he was walking home.
Right. And I want to show something real quick, too, because As I was doing my research today, I actually, and we'll get into a slideshow a little later, and I can show you the pictures that I have. But when it comes to the vehicle, this is, I don't know, maybe you guys know this, maybe you don't. Now, this is what doesn't make sense. What's up, Kevin Kraft? How you doing tonight? This is what doesn't make sense, is that the vehicle was actually facing towards the direction he was walking. And the vehicle, let me see here. So here's the highway right here. Let me get rid of this. So his vehicle was actually parked right here. If you can see my mouse. If you guys think a different color might show up better, let me know. I tried to make the mouse arrow as big as I could too. But it was parked right on the left side of this little cement patch here. And most of the car was pulled into the grass. But it wasn't facing outward. It was facing towards him going home, which was weird because you would think that the car would have been facing going north, not south. The car was facing going south. And as I did my research, I also located the closest gas station that they were referring to in the reports. And that is this gas station right down here at the bottom. The Gate gas station. So as I was doing my research and digging into some things, that is the gas station that they are referring to when they state he was so far away in the opposite direction of a gas station. So right here is where the vehicle was found, facing south, mostly in the grass. Closest gas station is down here at the south, and then the body was located right here in this location. All right, we'll get back to this video here.
Got a dislocated shoulder. It had to be somebody he knew put his body like he was walking home.
I mean, my heart goes out to her. It's just hard to believe.
It's been 7 years, and Stephen's case is still unsolved. His mother's attorney.
There's no that I can point to other than talk, rumor, speculation, and the connection of SLED reopening the case. It's nothing to us. And I'll tell you the other thing. There are people right now in Hampton who know what happened. And they need to come forward.
Sandy lost her son, but she also lost her own community because people were just turning their backs saying, we can't say anything.
His family reports he would have never left the car, calling him skittish. And his twin sister, Stephanie, also tells authorities that her brother had become very secretive about 2 weeks prior to the incident. Documents show investigators fielding tips about the Murdaugh family in the days and months following his death. The first tip comes in early August, suggesting swirling rumors of a relationship between Smith and Buster Murdaugh, Alec Murdaugh's eldest and now only surviving son. An investigator also fields a tip about another possible suspect, but that tipster tells them he passed along the information at the request of Randy Murdaugh. Andrew says in the records she has the Murdaugh name is mentioned 40 times.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. There has to be something to it.
Stephen was supposed to go that weekend fishing down in the Florida, and he talked about it with his mother. He didn't tell her who he was going with. He said it was an important person. So that is a good fact. So I guess SLED will look into who in that area may have been fishing that weekend in Florida, and are there any communications with Stephen on his phone that would have enlightened that to show that he was in communication with an important person that was taking him fishing. That's the only other fact we know. Look, Vinny, everybody universally agrees that he didn't die on that road that night, that something else happened. And the Murdaughs are no longer going to get the benefit of any doubt. For this to really move, I think they're going to have to exhume his body. And if the state is not going to do that, we are going to start a fundraiser to raise the money for Stephen to be exhumed, get a court order to get permission, hopefully, and then we'll know more, because until the body is exhumed and we can have a real forensic autopsy done, I don't think we're going to get anywhere, because certainly Alex is not going to talk. I don't expect Randy to talk. And, Buster, I'm not sure, is willing to talk. And if people aren't willing to talk, we're going to get nowhere. So I think it's going to have to be a forensic examination rather than a verbal disclosure.
Oh, shoot. Dang it.
Because his favorite saying is, I am who I am, and God made me, and God don't make mistakes.
He would be so ecstatic just to know his name is everywhere.
He was honored at the 2021 Gay Pride Parade in South Carolina, and funds were raised to provide the gravestone that his family had never been able to afford.
Now there's like so many people on my side that wants justice for Stephen, like I do, and it's amazing.
All right, I did change my mouse settings, so let me know if you can see this. Man, no, it's weird. Does it keep the mouse the same size no matter how big I make it? I think it does. And Grismatically, maybe because he doesn't have power, but there's a lot of other Murdaughs out there. And I have a feeling that people are still going to be hush-hush for the most part. I think this autopsy that they're going to do from an independent is actually going to create some answers. We're going to go into this court TV video real quick. This was from a couple days ago. This kind of gets into that a little bit. And then we got some articles we'll get into, but I'm thinking that when they kind of do a new autopsy, it's going to be able to give them answers that they normally wouldn't have been able to get, or that we're not getting, because it seems like some information is being suppressed. But I think with this new independent investigation, I think it's going to bring up some stuff that science, you just can't dispute what science is telling you. And so I think that's going to be the key. I think this new autopsy is going to be the key to answering a lot of these questions, crossing off things that maybe has been displayed as facts, and then it's going to lead to other directions and answers. And I think that at that point, then I think once the evidence is there and once science is telling you what took place, I think then is when people will start talking. Ooh, nice. I appreciate that. Very interesting stuff. All right, we're going to get into a little bit of this court TV episode now. Probably about 6 minutes of it, not all of it. But this is them talking about all of that information right there.
All right, you live in South Carolina. These country roads, some of them are very dark. They're not really well traveled. That's what really struck me about a hit and run. Seems kind of unusual. But even the distance and everything here in this map doesn't really add up to me.
No, a normal person isn't going to walk at night in the dark they're going to use their cell phone. They're going to call their mother, their sister, or a friend to come pick them up or to bring gas. According to Sandy, where he was found, he would not have taken that route to get home. She said that he often would walk off the road in the woods because having, a gay lifestyle, he was very cautious in that area of the state on being alone. It's not a metropolitan area, and so he was a cautious young man due to his lifestyle that he led. So I don't think it adds up. I just don't. There's nothing in the road. I don't see a young man walking in the dark at that time of night on a country road when he has a cell phone. It makes no sense.
Mike King, he's got his cell phone, but he left his wallet with the car. That doesn't add up to me. And I would just think it can't be that difficult. A simple check the cell phone records. Did he call anyone? If you break down, you're going to call someone, and who he called maybe picked him up. I don't know.
Yeah, there's only a number of cell towers out there, so cell coverage is limited in some places. So that becomes an interesting factor that I'd like to see, because the cell towers and the sectors at that time might be a little different than they are today. You and I actually talked about cell tower sectors a lot on the Murdoch case, Vinny, and so we have to take that into account. It's possible that there may not be coverage at that point, but it doesn't explain leaving if he's going to walk to get fuel, to leave his wallet behind. If he's walking to go home, maybe so. But then I want to know how many houses, and I haven't done a count, maybe Eric has, but how many houses did he pass along that path that he could have stopped and made a phone call from? I'm not as much troubled by the fact that he didn't cut through the woods like maybe his mom said he would, or others. If in fact it is dark, just because of how difficult it might have been to see. So I don't know. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered.
Yeah, I'm looking at the map, and I've driven on a lot of the roads in that area, and you can go, a while without a house, and there may be a house on some property that's set back. But looking at this, these are not regular neighborhoods, Eric. These are true country roads. You just got to check his cell phone records. You check his cell phone records. I think that will open up the floodgates of information here.
Not only his cell phone records, but the people that are being mentioned in these frequent conversations. Randy Murdaugh, somebody can issue a warrant and find out, is there post-death talk that has taken place? It's not necessarily contemporaneous evidence that you're looking for, but a lot of times people give away their criminality later on down the road.
So look at and you mentioned this, Eric, off the top, and Mike, agree with you. This is probably the biggest issue at this point. There is a GoFundMe, Sandy Smith's GoFundMe, for an independent autopsy in this case. And this is what she writes: "We feel it's critical to seek a new goal, an independent exhumation and autopsy, and we're launching Justice for Stephen N. Smith with that immediate goal in mind. While the state can elect and fund an exhumation and new autopsy, it is our understanding that it would be carried out at MUSC, where his death was initially classified as hit and run despite no evidence to support it. We need a new, unbiased look at his body and an accurate determination of his cause of death based on facts. There was no debris in the road, and his injuries were not consistent with a hit and run." So they are now raising money. Looks like it's up to almost $14,000. I'm sure the more people talk about it, the more people will want to.
And it's up to, let me get the total, but as of last night, it was 57,000. Let's go ahead and check it real quick. 62,000. Wow. If anybody would like to donate, like I said, I don't know how much all that stuff is. I'm not familiar with that. But I'll throw the link out there if you're interested. Total is up to $62,132. That's amazing. Out of the goal of 15,000, 2,000 donations. Nothing but justice for this young man. And the hate crime bill as well. Standing for Stephen, created by Suzanne Andrews. We're up to 3,221 signatures, trying to get to 5. I'll put the link to that in chat as well. Definitely important. Thank you everybody for coming in. Hit the like if you haven't yet, please. Yes. Hopefully, fingers crossed. We got to get those signatures up. Anybody could sign it, doesn't matter what state you're in. Wyoming and this state are the only two that don't have a hate crime bill. And if you live in South Carolina, it's an extra bonus. And then you can contact your local senators and let them know how important this bill is to you. And all your loved ones, please share these links. All we can do is help. All right, so now we were speaking about SLED reopening the cold case and the connection, and we're going to be listening to some interviews with the mom. Going to be going into the updates. Going into some interviews and such. And then we'll be getting into the evidence and the statements in a little bit. If anybody would like to hop up an open panel, let me know. I'd really love to have your opinion when we start digging into these statements and the evidence. So thank you everybody for hanging out. We're going to get into this first video, SLED reopening a cold case in connection. This was from a year ago. But a lot of these different clips, the mom has, you know, stuff that needs to be said too. $14,000 to exhume, but $450 per hour for autopsy. Yeah, it's going to be expensive, and it's nothing but justice for this young man.
The South Carolina Department of Public Safety, Stephen's body was found on Sandy Run Road in Hampton County. According to his mother, was.
And again, everybody, this is from let me give you the exact date. June 23rd, 2021.
Close to his home. At the time, authorities said he died after being hit by a car, but no suspect was ever found. The incident report says Smith was found with blunt force trauma to the head with no evidence of being hit by a vehicle.
It's been 6 years since he died. Does it feel like 6 years to you?
No. It feels like yesterday. It's just every day, you know, I have to relive it.
Today, ABC News 4 was the only TV station to sit down with Stephen Smith's family. Our Tara Jabor spoke with both his mother and his twin sister. Tara, what did they tell you today?
Dean, Stephen's mother, Sandra, told me agents visited her home yesterday afternoon. They told her that SLED was reopening her son's case in connection with the double homicide of the Murdaugh family earlier this month. Smith's case is now with SLED Midlands and out of the hands of SLED Low Country. It's something she's been fighting for years, to find her son's killer.
I was ecstatic, very ecstatic. Been waiting on this for 6 years. Well, it's not going to bring Stephen back, but I will have a peace of mind to know whoever did this is going to pay.
Stephen was 19 years old when he died. Sandra says Stephen was her heart, a mama's boy. His twin, Stephanie, told us their relationship was like any typical siblings. chaotic, fun, loving. She says Stephen was flamboyant in the limelight of every situation. Stephanie now has a daughter, and she says that her child is everything Stephen wanted. So sometimes it's hard for her to look at her kid without thinking of her twin. Coming up at 6, hear from Sandra about how her son was tied to the Murdaugh family. She tells us she has no idea her son even knew the family until after he died.
And then the sister kept saying, and she kept hearing the friends of the sister and Stephen saying that the Murdaughs were involved. The Murdaughs were involved. But she didn't really think too much of it until, as time went on, it kept happening and kept happening. Yeah, Kevin Kraft, man, if you're busy, go ahead and just keep working on your stuff. We're just going to be sitting back watching some clips and stuff here, and then we'll go ahead and get you up here when we start getting into the evidence and the statements and such. So yeah, just go ahead and keep working on what you're working on. We're just watching some stuff here real quick. All right, we're going to go to the next video. I got about 6 or so we're going to go through, and then we're going to tap into all the evidence and statements. This is from a year ago. A mother continues to fight for justice as her son's case is reopened. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm kind of giving you a timeline from the oldest to most recent as everything's getting led up to what we're about to talk about. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out and just chilling back and watching. And this is like a prelude to everything we're getting into tonight.
Only on Fox 6 years ago, 19-year-old Stephen Smith was found dead in the Low Country in Hampton County. His case has remained a mystery ever since. As his mom, Sandy Smith, tried to get answers, eventually not much attention was given to his case. That would all change in June of this year after Maggie and Paul Murdaugh were found killed on their property in Colleton County. Then 2 weeks later, on June 23rd, SLED announced information gathered during the double homicide investigation of the Murdaughs gave them reason to reopen Stephen Smith's case from 2015, a move that has given new energy in the fight for justice for Stephen. It's also created a movement with the hashtag Standing for Stephen Smith. I recently traveled to the Low Country to meet Stephen's mom, Sandy Smith, about her fight for justice. A couple 2x4s nailed together, staked into the ground. The blue paint chipping away as the painted white letters and numbers start to fade. You can still make out the date, January 29th, 1996. The day Stephen Nicholas Smith was born. What you can't make out is the date at the bottom. The day Stephen Smith took his last breath, just feet away on this Hampton County road called Sandy Run. Wednesday, July 8th, 2015. Just before 4 a.m., 19-year-old Stephen Smith's lifeless body was found in the roadway on the double yellow line. His car found a couple of miles from his body. Stephen was just 6 miles from home. 6 hours later, at the Smiths' home, Stephen's mom, Sandy, would get a phone call that changed her life forever.
The phone call was the hardest. And as they were talking, I can't listen anymore. Then it was shock. And then the tears just wouldn't stop.
In the days and weeks that followed, there would be disagreements among investigators, the coroner, and medical examiner on how Stephen died. It started as a homicide investigation. Those first on scene believed Stephen had been shot. Then days later, a medical examiner ruled Stephen's death was caused by him being hit by a car mirror, citing she found no bullet in his x-ray, leaving more questions than answers for Sandy Smith, which led her to search out what happened to her baby boy. The biggest question, why was Stephen on Sandy Run Road at this time of night?
That's what made it so strange that he would be out that late because he had a class the next morning, and so that's kind of where I just wouldn't give up, Something was not right. A mother knows her child, and I know my child, and he would not have been in that road.
One theory as to why Sandy believes her son may have been killed, Her son was an openly gay teenager in a small southern town.
I do think it was because he was gay. I said at the beginning that it was a hate crime. In my opinion, I think that's what it was.
Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and months into years. While rumors were flying across Hampton County, the news coverage started to dwindle, and eventually the case went cold.
It made me feel like they thought Stephen was nobody, you know, and we didn't matter, you know, and then, but I wasn't giving up. Somebody was going to listen.
It would take 6 long years.
I was trusting in God to make something happen. I know he was going to make it happen. Just didn't know when. I just had to wait on his timing.
On June 23rd, 2021.
They called me on my cell phone at work and they were at my house. I'm calling to tell you we're reopening Stephen's case. And I said, yeah. And I said, whoa, excuse me, what'd you say?
A call that would change everything.
I was just shaking all over, and I was thanking God that finally somebody's going to look at it again.
Right.
No doubt someone was going to look at Stephen's case. Since June, his story has hit national TV, made headlines in newspapers across the country, featured in podcasts, and even Facebook groups have formed to help get justice for Stephen.
Oh, shoot. All right, just a few more videos just to do this little prelude
On
here.
how
Whoa,
Stephen
that's
died.
loud.
It started as a homicide investigation.
Just a few more, and then we'll go ahead and get into everything. No reason to scream, Kevin. I typed in chat and I let you know, buddy. Go ahead and keep working. You were saying something about you were working on a website and stuff like that. So yeah, we'll be getting into the evidence here in a few. I also went ahead and left a comment in the private chat as well. No reason to scream, buddy. All right, and I didn't even hear because I can't hear nothing when anybody's in backstage. Stephen Smith's family wants answers as the trial begins. This is something that we checked out from a while back. This just has different things that the mother and investigators are talking about as time goes on. Had a couple videos from a year ago when the case was getting reopened. Now we're having some videos where, okay, now there's some more interesting facts, more things happening, more things starting to steamroll. So this is from News Nation from a month ago, short clip. The family wanting answers. Everything's starting to heat up.
Disparity, Alec Murdaugh faces 2 counts of murder in the deaths of his wife and son. But there is yet another case tied back to this family that has gone unsolved for years. And it wasn't until Paul and Maggie's murders that investigators gave this case a closer look. News Nation correspondent Rich McHugh is joining us live tonight from South Carolina with the story of 19-year-old Stephen Smith, whose body was found in the middle of a rural road back in 2015. Rich, good evening.
Good evening, Marnie. This is one of those unsolved cases that just baffles people around here. Few people actually believe that Stephen Smith was the victim of a hit and run, but the case went largely ignored for years until these other Murdaugh cases came to light. And one detail that seems to bug people the most is that of the people who showed up at the scene where Stephen Smith died, several of the Murdaughs, and few people understand why.
Stephen Smith was studying to be a nurse at the Orangeburg Calhoun Technical College. His end goal was to become a doctor. July 8th, 2015, he was on his way home from school when he ran out of gas. The car was found down this dark rural road in Hampton County, South Carolina. Stephen's body was found 3 miles away in the middle of the road with no skid marks or other physical evidence that a car had struck him. A special accident investigative team looked at the case and determined it was a homicide. but a pathologist disagreed, saying he likely died from a mirror of a passing car hitting Stephen's face.
It definitely was not a hit and run. He had blunt force trauma, and it seemed to be an intentional act, which we consider homicide.
Eric Bland, an attorney involved in several cases connected to Alec Murdaugh's numerous cases, knows Stephen Smith's mom, Sandy.
So we think he was dumped there on the road. Was a very sharp kid as a young man. He was cautious, and so he wouldn't have been walking down the road. He certainly knew the area. He had a cell phone, could have called somebody for help.
Sandy Smith was relentless in her quest for answers. She asked the FBI, the governor, and others to keep investigating, but the case went nowhere until Mallory Beach was killed on the Murdaugh boat 4 years later. People started asking questions about the old Stephen Smith case. Corporal Duncan told us the Murdaugh family name came up in his initial investigation, but that part of the investigation didn't go anywhere. And when asked if behind the scenes there was pressure to stop the investigation, leave the case as a hit and run?
Personally, I think there was some type of pressure or just lack of investigation upon other agencies to do anything.
But the real break in the Smith case came after the Murdaugh double murders. During that investigation, new information came to light. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division tells News Nation they've made progress in the death investigation of Stephen Smith. However, this investigation remains active and ongoing. Reporter Will Folks with Fit News tells us Buster's name often came up with the Smith case.
And there was clearly a Murdaugh tie-in to the death of Stephen Smith, because if you read investigatory report from his death back in 2015, the Murdaugh name is mentioned dozens of times. In fact, this was one of the first files I ever received related to this story.
The oldest Murdaugh son, Buster, was the same age as Stephen and his twin sister. Being from a small town, they all went to school together and everyone knew one another. As the Murdaugh cases have played out in the small Carolina community, rumors have swirled. After the news of Stephen's death came rumors that Buster and Stephen had some sort of relationship. The Smith family attorney says this.
They graduated high school together. They had, friends in common, had played ball together when they were younger. You can't say there's no connection. Nobody knows what Stephen's life was like. What I will say is that we know of no evidence that would support any kind of, relationship between Stephen and Buster.
But it was Alex Murdaugh and his brother Randy who came to the scene of Stephen's death, going through the crime tape. No one sure why. Inconsistencies in the initial investigation have left many wondering why his death was never investigated as a homicide.
It was clear that this case was not handled correctly. Why? I can't tell you. Maybe it was simply incompetence. Maybe it was purposeful, but I do believe that the truth is going to come out.
Now, I mentioned, Marty, in the piece that Alex and his brother Randy came to the crime scene, or the scene of where he passed away. One thing that I want to note is that Randy called the family the following day or soon thereafter and offered to help, and his law firm is disputing that never happened. Marty.
Rich, I know, having looked into this case, that Stephen's mom has been pushing for justice for her son so many years after he was found in the middle of that road. We also know that something happened to Stephen's father not long after Stephen was killed.
That's right, Marnie. He passed away about 3 months after his son's death. His wife says that he basically died. She feels he died of a broken heart. She says basically she's been offered, deals. She's been offered a Netflix deal. She is basically just seeking justice for her son, Stephen, at this point.
Yeah. And answers. Thoughts with that family tonight, having to go through this time and time queue in South Carolina tonight. Rich, thank you for that. Thank you for
Stephen Smith was found lying dead on the side of the road in the Low Country, with a case into his death shortly after the murders of Maggie and Paul Murphy.
The agency says they're making progress and the case remains active and ongoing. Blair Tables in Houston County.
Somebody out there knows something.
It's July 8th, 2015. A driver on his way to work calls 911 to report a body lying in the middle of the street on Sandy Run Road. The victim turns out to be 19-year-old Stephen Smith, a shy teen, but a funny and outgoing one to his inner circle. Smith was openly gay in the small rural South Carolina town he grew up in.
One of my favorite quotes that he had said to his mom was, God doesn't make mistakes. I am who I am, and God did not make a mistake.
The blunt force trauma to his head appears as a possible gunshot wound to the first responders on the scene, but the coroner's office later rules his death a hit and run. He also has injuries to his left arm and left hand. More than 7 years have passed since, and the mysterious details of his final hours have weighed on his mother, Sandy Smith, and the rest of the family.
It's draining.
Suzanne Andrews has become a close friend to them in their time of need. The family rejects the hit-and-run theory. South Carolina Highway Patrol's initial investigation finds no vehicle debris, skid marks, or injuries consistent with someone being struck by a vehicle. A heated discussion between Trooper Todd Proctor and pathologist Dr. Aaron Presnell reveals that the death was ruled this way because Smith was found in the road. Blue paint chips are found on Smith's clothes but cannot be traced to a specific make or model. And Smith's car was found about 3 miles away on Bamberg Highway. It won't start, but investigators find his wallet inside. The gas cap also unscrewed. His family reports he would have never left the car, calling him skittish. And his twin sister Stephanie also tells authorities that her brother had become very secretive about 2 weeks prior to the incident. Documents show investigators fielding tips about the Murdaugh family in the days and months following his death. The first tip comes in early August, suggesting swirling rumors of a relationship between Smith and Buster Murdaugh, Alec Murdaugh's eldest and now only surviving son. An investigator also fields a tip about another possible suspect, but that tipster tells them he passed along the information at the request of a well-known family patriarch, former solicitor Randy Murdaugh. Andrews says in the records she has the Murdaugh name is mentioned 40 times.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. There has to be something to it.
Eventually, the leads dried up and the case went cold. That was until the murders of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh in June of 2021. That same month, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division reopened Smith's case based on information they had gathered during that initial murder investigation. What that information is, though, still has yet to be revealed. SLED reports they have made progress in the last year and a half, but to this day, no suspects have been formally named in relation to Smith's death. No interviews with anyone from the Murdaugh family are ever noted in Highway Patrol's documents. Andrews believes the answers the family have been so desperate to learn are out there, and she's urging anyone who knows something to speak up now.
Put yourself in Sandy's shoes as a parent, that it being your child. Do the right thing and come forward.
According to SLED, the case is still active and ongoing.
As well, state investigators are asking anyone with information about Stephen Smith's death to please come forward.
All right, so that video was from a month ago. As I'm saying, we're kind of leading into the evidence here. Now, this next video is from a couple weeks ago. So the details, the steam's rolling, it's rolling. If you're interested and you haven't watched the interview with Suzanne Andrews, I'll go ahead and put the link to that in chat here in a second. We'll get to this next video. This is from a couple weeks ago.
Heard from investigators themselves this morning.
The chief of the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, known as SLED, had staff work overtime on this investigation, and they'll continue to work on the other crimes they say are connected to Alec Murdaugh.
And today is not the end. It's the next step in a long road to justice for every person who has been victimized by Alex Murdaugh. Alex Murdaugh has now been rightfully found guilty of murdering his wife, Maggie, and Paul. He was found guilty because he was guilty.
Well, that statement comes nearly 2 years after SLED reopened several investigations connected to the family because of the murder case. One of those is the 2015 death of Stephen Smith.
Smith's body was found on the side of a Hampton County road in what was described at the time as a hit and run. According to the report from South Carolina Highway Patrol, the Murdaugh name was mentioned multiple times while they were investigating his death. Like we just mentioned, SLED says they reopened that investigation on June 22nd of 2021 due to evidence they found during the Murdaugh murder investigation.
New at 5, our Haley Boland is in Hampton County with more on how the Smith family is reacting to the Murdaugh's conviction.
Stephen Smith's final resting place is here at Gooding Cemetery on Sandy Run Road, the same road where Stephen's body was found in 2015. Now, his family is reacting to the guilty verdicts in the Murdaugh murder trial, saying that they soon hope that Stephen will get justice as well. SLED still hasn't officially said what the connection between Stephen Smith's case and the Murdaugh family is. In the Smith family statement released by their attorney, Sandy Smith, Stephen's mom, says the verdict provides much-needed closure to Maggie's and Paul's loved ones, adding, quote, "We understand the agony and frustration of being in the dark about how a family member was killed, and I am thankful the whole story was put before the jury in a public trial. One day, I pray the same happens for my Stephen, but today we should honor and remember the victims of this man who so many people trusted." Mike Himlap, the attorney representing the family, says the verdict in this trial is the result of hard work from SLED and the state's Attorney General's office, and that the family is, quote, confident they will continue to exhibit this level of dedication to their investigation into Stephen's murder, no matter where that investigation may lead. Just this past July at Gooding Cemetery, Stephen's family and friends gathered to reveal a new headstone for him 7 years after his death as the investigation into the incident continues. Stephen's family continues to encourage anyone with information about his death to reach out to Crime Stoppers or SLED. We'll have that contact information in this story on our website. In Hampton County, Haley Boland, WTOC News.
And when it comes...
All right. This is the next video here. This is actually the Attorney General discussing the case here. Not the whole clip, but some of it.
In that investigation, because SLED has confirmed they have reopened the case based on new evidence that was this connection to the murders of Maggie and Paul.
What I can tell people is this office will always pursue the truth of any case that is open and being investigated, and whatever evidence is determined from that investigation, it will be assessed and evaluated, and we will pursue it if we at all possibly can. I'm obviously not going to comment on a pending case, but what I can tell people is that if we have the ability to prove a crime under reasonable doubt to a jury of peers, then we're going to pursue that in a court of law. If we don't have the ability to, prove something beyond a reasonable doubt, we'll continue to investigate or work with law enforcement until it can be determined that we can or can't ever prove it. So that's really all I can say about a pending case.
Can you elaborate on any evidence at all that was discovered? Okay. Stephen Smith's family has released a statement saying that they are putting so much trust in your office. What kind of weight is that for a family to say, we see that justice was served for Maggie and Paul, and we hope the same can be done for Stephen?
Like everyone else, I've seen some of these shows, the documentaries. Obviously, I'm familiar with what happened because we've, obviously looked at it legally. I have nothing but compassion for that family, Stephen's family, and it's horrible what happened to that young man. And so they obviously, from the bottom of my heart, I have nothing but compassion for them. What I can say as a prosecutor is that we will work with law enforcement to evaluate the evidence and to pursue it as far as it will take us. And if we can prove something beyond a reasonable doubt, we will bring it up in a court of law.
Let's hope.
I don't want to mismanage expectations. I don't want to make an assertion here today that this will happen or that will happen for the people to get their hopes up. All I can tell them is we will never stop looking as long as there's evidence to be seen, heard, or found.
Are you able to confirm or anything? Is there an open investigation, Buster Murdaugh?
I'm not going to comment on anything that possibly could be pending or not pending, and I'm not going to say that there is. I just don't want to feed the rumor mill.
Right, and he's going to be very political about it because he's in a political position. But at least it seems like he's who knows? You never know. Now, this is just from a few days ago. This was the family starting to push the autopsy here. And this is just a few days ago with this whole GoFundMe, I believe. And the amount of donations is awesome. So this is a video from a few days ago, family pushing for the autopsy. We'll be getting into everything in a few minutes. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out.
This morning, new developments in other investigations in the family of Stephen's new autopsy after Alec Murdaugh was found guilty of murdering his wife and son.
Well, it's not going to bring Stephen back, but I will have a peace of mind to know whoever did this is going to pay.
During the double murder investigation of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh in 2021, state agents saying they found new evidence on another mysterious death. Police reopening the case in June 2021, looking at how 19-year-old Stephen Smith was killed. Authorities said he was the victim of a hit and run. His family always believing something else happened.
They said he was shot in the head. And then it turned out it was a hit and run, and then he was beat up. And so the story just kept changing over and over.
Smith's family now raising money to exhume his body in hopes of doing an independent autopsy to find out how he died. State investigators say they have made progress in the death investigation of Stephen Smith. However, this investigation remains active and ongoing. They have not named any suspects. Meanwhile, after Murdaugh took the stand in the double murder case, admitting to financial crime after financial crime.
I can say I did wrong. I stole money that wasn't mine, and I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have taken. That didn't belong to me, and that I was wrong for. I stole money that didn't belong to me.
Russell Lafitte, the banker already convicted as an accomplice to Murdaugh's financial crimes, now asking for a new trial based on what Murdaugh himself said on the stand.
Okay, and that's for a different case. Now, this is a video from just yesterday. Now, this is the news breaking it that the body will be exhumed.
Tonight, 11 more fallout from the Alec Murdaugh. The mother of a South Carolina teen found dead on a rural road 8 years ago is about to have his body exhumed. A GoFundMe page has raised more than $50,000 for the exhumation and autopsy of Stephen Smith. His mother has been seeking answers in her son's death since he died back in 2015. The case got renewed interest following the murders of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh. While the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division was investigating the double murders, the agency said it found information about mysterious deaths connected to the Murdaugh family. SLED said it was opening an inquiry into Smith's death. Back in 2015, investigators said it looked like Smith was killed after a vehicle hit him. Over the course of the investigation, authorities received tips that Smith's death was connected to the Murdaugh family. At this time, no member of the Murdaugh family has been directly named as a suspect involved with his death.
All right, there we go. So that just kind of led up to everything. I just kind of wanted to show some videos there. If anybody would like to hop up, you're more than welcome. We'll start getting into the evidence and everything. What's up, Kevin Kraft? How you doing, man?
Oh,
Thanks
hey,
for
am I
hanging out
actually able to
backstage.
talk now?
So you're working on, so you're working on your website, huh?
Yeah, website, looking at maybe doing a new logo, because I actually had an ex-girlfriend design the one that I'm using, so I'm just playing around.
You got yourself a logo maker?
I'm looking for one online right now since I'm just got my data renewed on my hotspot, so now I can play online again.
So I can hook you up if you're interested.
Yeah, I'm game.
Just reach out, give me a picture of what you're thinking about, and I'll send you something.
Okay. I've got no idea what I'm thinking right now. I'm just looking at options and getting ideas.
Yeah, just even if you draw it, just shoot it to me, and I'll get you a logo with a transparent background and everything, so that way you can put it on whatever you want, and you have no no restrictions on where you put it or whatever. You know, with all the stuff I do.
Yeah, sounds good to me, because
Yeah.
I'd rather sketch it out anyway.
Yeah, we all help each other out, man. So just even if it's a drawing or something, just shoot it to me. Read chat. Why? What am I missing here? I saw something about Kib Kitty. You guys talking to Kib Kitty about a trip? How you doing, Kib Kitty?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Hi, Kevin.
What's up?
Just about to get into this evidence, statements, and such. It's going to be pretty graphic at some times tonight, but I'm definitely going to throw out a warning before we do that. And hear anything new today?
No, I haven't even been really on any channels or anything. Just been out working in my yard and stuff.
Oh yeah, was it nice today?
Yeah. It was like 60, but starting next week, it's 70s from here on out.
I'm jealous.
Oh, nice.
It was like 28 here today.
That sounds awesome. I don't even know what it's supposed to be here.
Yeah, I think starting Thursday, we're going to be in the 70s or higher. So
rub it in.
You can't beat that.
That's why I moved here.
Can't beat that. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to play the 911 call again. This is from Island Packet. I'll share it here in a second. I'm going to get up their link to their YouTube channel. So the first thing, obviously, we're going to check out is the 911 call. I know it's a little hard to understand, so I'm going to mute the music while we listen to the 911 call. And then we're going to start getting into some of the statements, just kind of as everything's taking place before we really get into the incident report and different articles and such. When it comes to the medical professionals, what's been going on, the statements between themselves, the kind of friction that was taking place, the kind of different opinions on what they thought took place. And then we're going to kind of give you a little bit of the evidence, and then you can, end the night kind of thinking about it in your own mind and what maybe you'll kind of think of and what you'll come up with. So this is Island Packet, and this will be the 911 call. I'll go ahead and mute the music, and then we'll get into that video.
Crocketville Road. I see somebody laying out.
What road are you? What's the name of the highway that you're on?
I know it's Crocketville Road.
Just know it's Crocketville Road.
Yeah.
Hold on just a second. And which way are you headed?
Okay, you know the back way to go to, like going towards Brunson?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay, you're on that road just before you get into Crocketville.
Turn Crocketville, make that right.
Okay. From Crocketville, take a right.
Wait, take a left. When you go 601,
Uh-huh.
Bamberg.
Uh-huh. If I'm going toward Bamberg, I'm gonna take a left onto that road.
Yeah, like you going to, I see the road called 14. You can go to Sandy Run,
But you're not on Sandy Run Road.
I think it is. This says you can Sandy Road, go straight on out.
Okay. All right. And is it in the road or on the side of the road?
In the roadway.
Oh, in the road.
Yeah.
All right. So what's your name and call that number?
My name is Ronnie Capers.
Okay. All right, Mr. Capers. Can I get a phone number for you?
Let's see. I don't know the number off the cell phone, but you can call this number back. I'm going to work.
Okay, but this is a good number to reach you back at.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll get an officer headed out that way to see what's going on.
Okay. So he live in the road. I ain't moving or nothing like that. But somebody going to hit him. It's dark.
Uh-huh.
Somebody going to hit him.
All right. We'll get an officer headed out that way.
Okay.
All right, sir.
All right, there's the 911 call. And maybe not released, Pam, but as I don't know everything about this case. I feel like I find something new out every day, but that's just me. There's something brand new that we have tonight, thanks to SRB. I appreciate the heads up. Something I know, well, I know I didn't see until tonight, until SRB showed me. But that's later in the show. Yeah, that's pretty graphic stuff, but it's stuff we have to get into. We'll talk about that later. So that was the 911 call. Now I'm going to get into a couple statements from the Ellie that showed up at the scene. I know the 911 call was hard to understand, but just to kind of keep it all shrunk down, you can go ahead and rewind if you need to. And I'm not sure what's going on with my YouTube here. I don't know. I just feel like I find out something new every day. So this is former state trooper Todd Proctor. He's speaking on the Stephen Smith case from Fox News. And so this is what he has to say when he showed up.
A murder mystery in South Carolina, the Low Country, involving two members of a prominent legal family. Police have not mentioned any clues or suspects publicly in the murders of Maggie and Paul Murdock. The investigation into their deaths is prompting a new scrutiny on a cold case from 2015, however. And Fox News has an exclusive interview with a former state trooper involved in that case from 6 years ago. Griff Jenkins is on that story, Colleton County in South Carolina. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Bill. There have been no arrests and no persons of interest have been publicly named in the investigation into the brutal murder of Paul and Maggie Murdock, as they're referred to here locally in Colleton County. We went out to the property yesterday. It's a 1,700-acre hunting lodge the Murdaughs own. We tried to find out what has led investigators to reopen the 2015 cold case of the death of 19-year-old Stephen Smith. That case ruled a hit-and-run death, but we spoke to the lead investigator, former trooper Todd Proctor, and he says that, in his recollections, it was anything but a hit-and-run. Listen. You said it pointed more to a murder and less of a hit and run.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, I had been in law enforcement on the highway patrol for, 15 years. I've worked several collisions, hit and run collisions. Nothing about this case from the very beginning pointed towards it being a hit and run.
You stated then on record that you thought it pointed towards a murder. Why?
I mean, again, as any investigator, you go off of the evidence. There was no evidence that pointed towards this being a hit and run or a vehicle even being involved in it. It looked like it was more staged, like possibly the body had been placed in the roadway.
Proctor says, by the way, that the state law enforcement division, SLED, as it's known here, leading the investigation into Paul and Maggie Murdock's death, that they have not contacted him yet. He's willing to talk to them anytime.
South Carolina Highway Patrol mate. It's reference to a collision in Hampton County on Sandy Run Road. It is a two-lane roadway, level, sight distance not an issue. However, this collision occurred approximately at night, so visibility will be used with headlights only. There's no other ambient lighting in the area. As far as evidence here, there's only the body was found in car park, any type of parts to a car or truck or any other vehicle. There is no body trauma other than to the head area. There is some scrapes and scratches on his left and right arm, on his knuckles, some across his face. not appear to be, in my opinion, struck by a vehicle, possibly something.
Unbiased look at his body and an accurate determination of his cause of death based on facts. There was no debris in the road.
My bad, it's bugging. Okay, so those were the two statements from the gentleman that showed up, the LE, and they were both stating that there was no evidence to point to that. Let me get rid of I'm trying to do some other stuff and it was bugging. So they both had their opinions, or there was nothing that showed them that there was any type of hit and run that took place there. Now, I've even wondered, as I was doing my research today, I've even wondered if that was not necessarily where the car ran out of gas, but I'm wondering if that's where the meetup spot was at. And somebody siphoned the gas out of the car. That's why the gas cap was left off.
I was wondering that too.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like it was a meetup spot, because if you're, I'm going to go back to the map. If you're looking at where this car was located on this road, it's the only part of this road for a while
We can't
that has
see the
any.
road, dude.
Oh, 1 second. There we go.
There we go.
This part of the road is the only part of the road for a while that has any kind of spot that just pulls off. And when you're looking at the car, let me go back to the date, or 22. So when you're looking at the car, this is that patch right here. The car was faced going forward this way, so it was going like it was back into town, and it was parked mostly in the grass. The tire was kind of off into the cement there, but the front of the vehicle was in the grass area pointed forward. So it had me wondering, like, this has got to be a dark road, number one, and why wouldn't this be a meetup spot? Especially when you consider what the mom was saying about how he was skittish. He wouldn't have walked, let alone the middle of the road, not even on the side of the road. He understood where he was at with his sexuality and, you know, the stigma in the area. And so she said he would often walk off the beaten path because of that. He was very aware. That's what one of the court TV people even said on one of the first videos we watched this evening. He was very aware of his surroundings and situation, and so maybe that's where some of the reports came out about him getting chased through the woods, because he would often walk through there off the beaten path.
Could be.
So they were all in agreement when they said that they felt like the body was placed there. A lot of these people that we watched this evening. Now you listen to the statements that we heard from the LE a minute ago. They don't feel it was a hit and run. They walked and canvassed the area and made sure that there was nothing else that they could find that had any relation to the crime that took place. Multiple people. So when you get into the evidence and you hear that the coroner actually stated that it was a homicide, initially felt it was a gunshot wound based off the severity of the injuries, but then later came to the conclusion. The pathologist was the one that didn't agree with the coroner, didn't agree with the LE. The pathologist was the one that stated ruling it a hit and run simply because the body was in the middle of the road, even though there was no evidence to point it in that direction.
I'm sorry, that sounds to me like they need to have two people independently confirm a cause of death in their area.
Well, what's interesting when I did this research, and I'm not going to go into it tonight because it's another rabbit hole, but as I was going into this research, there was a lot of elections. I'll just put it this way. There was a lot of elections taking place and a lot of people running or not running or running for re-election, whatever. You can do the research. That involve the coroner's name, that involve the pathologist's name. It's very interesting. Now, if we do get into some of this stuff later on in the show, I'm going to introduce you to some other cases that the pathologist also had some fishy dealings with, if you know what I'm saying. So if we don't get into it, I'll definitely share it real quick and put the links out there so y'all can read it. There's definitely other cases out there that I discovered that this pathologist is intermingled with that had very interesting outcomes, so to speak. Did a lot of homework today. Man, I couldn't find very much on that coroner, though. Okay. So I want to go into... Is there anything you guys want to add real quick? Is there anybody else that would like to hop up on panel?
No, I'm good.
What's up, Cherry?
I'm just listening.
But the only thing I could think of would be they just need to have two independent people confirm cause of death in that area then. All I can think of.
Yeah, somebody not connected with the Murdaugh circle.
Well, that's why I'm so happy that this GoFundMe took off like it did. I'm so happy that they're gonna exhume the body. I'm so happy that the science is gonna be able to tell a lot of answers that aren't being told.
Well, I'm sure they'll take a full body x-rays and look at every inch of his body,
I sure hope so.
I do too.
Well, I came across an interesting article while I was doing my research. And so, if this is a graphic conversation for you, please hop out for about 10 minutes and come back, or just hit pause and then skip ahead after 10 minutes. Or if you're in replay, just skip ahead 10 minutes from here. This is a conversation about what happens to a body in a coffin with a decomposition timeline. So with us talking about him getting exhumed, what they're going to be able to find possibly when it comes to evidence and such, and just even the general topic of it, I want to go ahead and share the information with you guys. So again, if it's something that's too trigger warning for you, then just skip ahead for about 10 minutes and I'll go ahead and get into reading the article here.
I'm going to go out and have a cigarette, so I'll just mute my voice.
Okay.
Okay. In case the traffic's loud.
That's fine.
I'm gonna need one.
That's fine. All right, let me get into this article here. After Your Time is a free resource providing trusted information about everything beyond life, whether you're planning for a future or you recently lost someone. They're there for you, and I'll go ahead and put in the link in the chat of the article here. Oh, that's cool. Right as happy. Oh gosh, caught me off guard. All right. What happens to a body in a coffin? Decomposition timeline. Many people take an out of sight, out of mind approach to the process that follows a funeral. While most will grieve and remember their loved ones, thinking about what happens to a dead body in a coffin once it's buried is often avoided. But wondering about the human decomposition process and timeline is entirely normal. There's nothing wrong with having questions. So, during the first few months underground, the body will typically undergo active decay, purification, and blackening. Over several decades, the tissue and organs will continue to break down and liquefy until only the teeth remain. So we're 8 years later, almost at 1 decade. So it still should. Of course, many variables can affect this process, so in this post, we will set out the uncomfortable but intriguing truth about what happens to a body in a casket and the factors that can have an impact. It's Dr. Susan Erin Presno. So when you do look up any information, make sure you add Susan, and the Erin is spelled E-R-I-N. I'll go ahead and put it in chat exactly how it's spelled. There you go, chat. And then here is the coroner. Whoops, sorry, hold on. It's bugged out on me. Sorry, everybody. I'll get back to it here in a second. There you go. Those are the two names that you need to research with the correct So this is the pathologist, Dr. Susan E. Presno. Coroner is Ernie J. Washington. If anybody else wants to look him up as well. Now, in this article, Understanding Human Decomposition, the Effect of a Casket or Coffin, Decomposition, Timeline of a Body, Weeks to Years, Years to Decades. So, attempts have been made to create a universal formula for estimating how long a body will take to decay, but according to Dr. Diane L. Cockle of Simon Fraser University, this has not yet been achieved. The science is still not clearly understood. But the thing is the bones will be there, and the bones are what going to tell you exactly the kind of injuries, how they took place. Now, it was just reported that there was a partially dislocated right shoulder, broken eye socket, and the back of the skull was crushed. Scrapes on the skin, but that, when you're talking about bones, that's not going to show. So that's going through embalming. And like I said, if you want to read the whole article, the link is in chat for you. It is a lengthy one. And then I'm going to go ahead and go to the link at the top here. Now, this is weeks to years. So the third stage purification will occur and the body will discolor and blister. The organs will start to decay and the hairs, nails, and skin will become loose. But the body and the bones will be there. That's the dry decay. The skeleton will remain. And the skeleton's what's gonna create the answers for when they're gonna do their investigations. So this is another article from People magazine. Are either of you familiar with any of the autopsy process? And
I'm not really. It's always kind of giving me the heebie-jeebies.
well,
I'm not.
SRB. Well, SRB. The thing is the statements that the LE are making is that in every single hit and run case, they've never had an individual with the shoes still remaining. And with his shoes loosely tied, we'll get into some information. You know what I mean? We know the information I'm talking about, SRB, and you can tell that it wasn't a hit and run just based off of what's. So I don't know. Like his mom said, nobody would be walking in the middle of the road, especially. It just doesn't make sense. I meant hit by a bat while on the ground. Oh, okay. I don't know. I've even thought, with this Mark individual, I even thought because the mom, as I was doing my research, I kept watching a lot of the interviews with the mother, and she was talking about how the last couple of weeks that he was alive, he got very private. And she had mentioned somebody was harassing him or bothering him, and then he eventually became friends with this person, and I wonder if it is this Mark person. And I'm kind of wondering who didn't meet him maybe at that location where the car was found. And then some kind of confrontation took place.
Well, I heard a while back. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I heard a while back that he called Buster for help when it broke down. I don't remember where I heard that. But it's speculation.
If that's the case, then Ellie will have that. If that's the case, then Ellie will have that information already. And
Right.
I feel
Maybe off
like
of his
if that
phone.
was, to my understanding, Buster was never interviewed for this case. And so if that is true, and it wasn't, how do I say? If it is true that he placed a call to him at that time, and it wasn't part of somebody shoveling it under a rug, which I think it would be pretty hard with the digital evidence, I would feel that he would have been a suspect already. And as far as I know, he's not even being interviewed about this case. So,
Well, not yet that we know of.
but I don't know. I feel like
I
if
don't
that
know.
was the case, he would have been interviewed way back then, when everything took place. Because I don't know. That's just if somebody wasn't pushing it under the rug. I'm not saying it didn't happen.
Right. Well,
But it
Alex
is
had
digital evidence.
a lot of SLED and state police and stuff in his pockets, so to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm saying
So I
if
mean,
it wasn't brushed under the rug.
yeah.
But it'd be kind of hard to cover up, I'd imagine, a phone record, because anybody can get the phone records, and just because you're Ellie doesn't mean you can tell Verizon to take a number off their call log. So, it's digital evidence, you know, unless it's like totally thrown under, hidden or whatever. Then I
Right.
could totally see that taking place. But with how hard of the digital evidence is, I would think that he would have been a suspect way before Paul and Maggie were unalived. So this is Stephen Smith, all about the teen's mysterious 2015 death and reopened investigation. This came out about a week ago. And this kind of goes into it. Basically, his death has been considered mysterious since he was found dead in the middle of the rural South Carolina road in 2015. And questions have only intensified since the 2021 murders of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, a mother and son from a prominent South Carolina family. Smith, a 19-year-old nursing student from Hampton, South Carolina, was found unalived in the early morning hours around 4 a.m., July 8, 2015. He was discovered lying in the middle of a dark road 3 miles away, where his car ran out of gas with deep gashes on his forehead. Several local news outlets reported authorities initially thought Smith had been shot, but his death was later ruled a hit and run, a claim that his mother, Sandy Smith, disputes to this day. So, 6 years after Smith was found dead, South Carolina's top law enforcement agency announced they were opening an investigation into his death. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Agency Division SLED revealed in the statement that the investigation was launched based upon information gathered during the course of the double murder investigation of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh. SLED did not specify what information had led them to open the investigation. That's what we've all been wondering. Had a 7.25-inch gash on the right side of his forehead, as well as partially dislocated right shoulder and cuts and bruises on his right hand. His car was located 3 miles away with the gas cap unscrewed and his wallet still inside. Now, his car ran out of gas. Steve, his mom said Stephen never would have been walking in the middle of the roadway, the family told, saying he was skittish. Smith's mother, Sandy, later reiterated the same point to the Hampton County Guardian. I just don't believe my son would have been walking in the middle of the road like that. Now, authorities were first reporting that there was a possible gunshot wound to the victim's head from the South Carolina Highway Patrol. And then the Smith case file stated that at the scene of the incident, Hampton County Coroner Ernie Washington referred to Smith's head wound as a gunshot wound, pointing to the bullet's entry point, referred to the death as a homicide. The deputy coroner present, Kelly Green, also verbally affirmed that it was a homicide to the SCHP officers present. However, a search for cartridge casings on the morning of Smith's death turned up empty. According to the case file, SCHP officers returned to the scene the following day, July 9th, to hunt for any evidence within 100 yards of where Smith's body was found, but there was nothing. Smith's autopsy also found no bullet or fragments. So at the beginning, everybody's thinking gunshot wound, nothing to do with a hit and run. Well, it'll be interesting when the new autopsy comes out, because you really can't believe the autopsy that was done.
Right.
Because it was obviously doctored in a way to fit whatever explanation somebody wanted to,
Yep.
hint, hint. So when this new one comes out, and it'll come out at some point, it's going to be interesting for us to take a read through it and see exactly hit by a venom. Just going through chat here.
I really hope it goes to a different area too, or like the FBI or somebody there's no way that they have been bought off for this whole thing.
Well,
Yep, I
I'm
agree.
not sure the exact independent investigators who is actually doing this. If anybody knows, if you can put it in chat. I know that they're hired independent investigators. I'm not sure exactly who it is.
I know this. Whoever doctored it up in the beginning is going to be having some explaining to do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, exact. That's why there was such a huss about it. The SCHP officers were apparently skeptical of the hit and run ruling from the beginning, and according to Smith's case file, because the person that we talked about that went and confronted Presnell about it, that he wasn't the first one. There was more. LE that was talking to her about this. Dr. Presnell reportedly told an SCHP officer that no glass fragments or any other evidence from a motor vehicle were found on Smith. A search of the scene at Sandy Run Road also found no debris or tire marks consistent with a motor vehicle crash. The case file read, and Smith was found with his loosely tied shoes on. His feet and clothes appeared untouched. His phone was in his pocket. His keys were hanging halfway out of his pocket, and his wallet was left in the vehicle. He was not walking to get gas. He was not walking anywhere without your wallet.
Yeah.
The coroner told the state police investigator he disagreed with the autopsy findings. The coroner told the state police. In 2015, Coroner Ernie Washington, who was present on the scene when Smith's body was found, told lead investigator Todd Proctor, which we heard in one of the clips that we watched from the show here, with the evil CJ cop lights, the audio, that was Todd Proctor. He did not agree with the autopsy findings. Proctor's case notes from the conversation detailed that Washington said he does not agree with the pathologist that the victim was struck by a motor vehicle. Nobody agreed with the pathologist, and unfortunately, the pathologist has the final say. Proctor, who no longer works for the SCHP, later echoed similar doubts about the hit and run to Fox News in June 2021. That's the audio I was telling you about. Nothing about this case from the very beginning pointed towards it being a hit and run, Proctor said. He continued, as any investigator, you go off the evidence. There was no evidence that pointed towards that being a hit and run or a vehicle even being involved in it. It looked like it was more staged, like possibly the body had been placed in the roadway. And this is somebody with experience.
CJ.
Yes.
I just pulled up about the independent autopsy. And in this news article from New York Post, it says, our understanding is that it would be carried out at the Medical University of South Carolina, where his death was initially classified.
That's where she works.
Run. Yep.
That's where she works. As soon as
That's
you said that, I'm like, that's where she works. Are you serious?
I'm serious. That's what it's saying.
Wow. Thank you for letting us know that. See.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. That's what it's saying. I do not like hearing that.
Wow. I believe she is. Ernie Washington no longer is with us on this earth, so prayers to his family. The Murdaugh name was mentioned more than 40 times in the investigation of Smith's death, though no Murdaugh family member was questioned. So we're going to go to the incident report now. This is an article that came out a little over a year ago. I'm wondering did it say who's performing the autopsy?
No, it did not say. No.
That's a
It just
shame.
said that's their understanding that it's at that place. Wow.
You know, I have these other websites that people have sent to me where it's a story and it's like a continuous update website where whenever there's something new on that specific case, it always puts it in there. It's like CNN or something like that. Does anybody remember what I'm talking about? If there's one of those for this, I would like to know exactly, like, when whoever it is doing this. I wonder if any of those websites for this case like that.
What's the website?
Just
I mean,
proven. It's like a website that it's continually updates when it pertains to a certain case. I've had them in the past when it came to like the Idaho 4 and train derailment, but it was with the Idaho 4 mainly, and then the train derailment came out, and then the spy balloon stuff. Whoops, clicked the wrong link there. So this has the incident report. Now I couldn't get the actual incident report, but without saving it as a bunch of different screens, I'm going to go ahead and just display it up here. This is Fitz News, and I want to thank you, Pam, for the link. And I know a lot of other people reached out with the link as well for this channel. I appreciate it. So I'm going to zoom in on the actual incident report full screen. So if anybody would like to take screenshots, you're more than welcome. And I'm going to move through it, probably 3 sections. So it happened on a Sunday. Now they're saying approximately 1 a.m. I keep hearing approximately 4 a.m. So I'm not sure why that's different. Anybody know?
What was your question? I'm sorry.
I've been hearing that Stephen passed around 4 a.m. or is that when the 911 call came in and that's when Ellie showed up? I've been hearing that he passed around 4 a.m.
That's what I've been hearing too.
On this incident report right here, first line, happened on a Sunday, 7/8/2015, approximately 1 a.m. So I'm just curious. Yeah, I'm just curious why it's different, and maybe I'm just not understanding something.
They found him passed away on a Wednesday night, well, early Thursday morning. So why would it say Saturday at 1 a.m.?
It says Sunday, approximately 1 a.m. on the incident report. That's something we're gonna have to figure out.
Yeah, that don't make any sense.
Oh wait, and it's got Wednesday checked off too. What?
What?
It's got 2 days checked on it, a Sunday and a Wednesday. It's got 2 days marked off.
That almost
we're on the first line. What? We're on the first damn line.
That's nuts.
That almost makes me wonder if somebody hit the wrong thing and didn't catch it because they were trying to get out of there on a Saturday and they were behind on paperwork for Wednesday.
Well, he was found on a Wednesday night, Thursday morning, right?
Yeah.
So maybe they just, I don't know. So
Like I
that would,
said, it could have just been a simple mistake on paperwork.
well, it wasn't on a Saturday night that they did it or a Sunday. It was on a Wednesday night. So Russian. It's just an accident. It's just an accident, but you know, it's just
That just-
interesting. It's the first line,
That's
and
weird.
there's already a typo.
Oh,
Victim. Let's see what else. A lot of NAs in this first section here. NA 58165. And it just says the address of the pedestrian as a victim. Now scrolling down to the next category, subject. Nothing filled out, just says unknown. Now, remarks at the bottom, and this is what is being highlighted. Yeah, death on Wednesday, autopsy on Saturday. On July 8th, between the hours of 1 a.m. and 4 a.m., an incident took place involving the victim and an unknown subjects. The victim was found in the middle of Sandy Run Road, deceased from some sort of blunt force trauma to the head. Responded to the scene. I saw no vehicle debris, skid marks, or injuries consistent with someone being struck by a vehicle. The victim's shoes were loosely tied and both were still on. After consulting with MAIT, we see no evidence to suggest the victim was struck by a vehicle. The incident is still under investigation with supplemental report to follow.
Now, was that the coroner?
No, that's an incident report. That's from the Highway Patrol.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say, that sounds like it was written by a cop.
From DB Howell is who wrote out the incident report. South Carolina Highway Patrol. Document CL-062-15. Now, another SCHP investigator who walked the scene found no evidence of car parts or pieces on the scene, affirming the judgment of the responding officer. SCHP troopers and investigators weren't the only ones who didn't buy the official story. Following the autopsy, Hampton County Coroner Ernie Washington told SCHP investigator Todd Proctor he did not agree with the pathologist stating that the victim was struck by a motor vehicle. SCHP investigators questioned Presnell, the pathologist, about her conclusion, but got nowhere. On July 28, 2015, 12 days after Smith's death, Proctor tried to speak with Presnell about why she settled on the hit-and-run explanation, but was rudely rebuffed. After attempting to stonewall the SCHP investigator, Presnell allegedly called him a liar when he was telling her that he already had talked to the coroner prior to coming to talk to her. That's when she called him a liar. Pressed as to what led her to conclude Smith had been killed by a vehicle strike, Presnell responded because he was found in the road, according to Proctor. She had no evidence other than that for the statement being put in the report, Proctor wrote in his case notes. The kicker is Presnell dismissed Proctor from her office by telling him it was his job to figure out what struck Smith, not hers. And I'm going to go ahead and put the link in chat too if you'd like this article. This is again from Fitz News, and I appreciate it. If StreamYard will let me.
Come on, StreamYard.
There we go. So now this is Todd Proctor, former SCHP. He states on July 22nd, 2015, he went down to MUSC on this date to meet with Dr. Erin Presnell. She is the pathologist that performed the autopsy on the victim in this case. The reason I went and spoke with her was due to a preliminary report where she stated that the victim was possibly struck by a motor vehicle mirror, which was the cause of death. Sergeant Moore had already had, from my understanding, a heated conversation with her about this issue. The MAIT team has always had a good working relationship with MUSC, so I wanted to see if I could go down there and get some sort of clarification. As soon as Dr. Presnell came into the room, she began in a negative tone, stating that I did not have a meeting scheduled and that she was very busy. She stated that she could not even begin speaking with me about the case without the coroner's consent. I advised her that I had spoken with Coroner Washington the day before, and she basically called me a liar and said she would call him right then. When I asked if she wanted me to call from my cell phone, she backed off. I asked her why she stated that in the report, and her answer was because he was found in the road. She had no evidence other than that for the statement being put in the report. She asked why we did not think it was a vehicle strike, and I explained to her that we had no evidence of this individual being struck by a vehicle. I asked her if someone with a baseball bat could do that, and she stated no. When I probed further, saying, "What about someone in a moving car with a bat?" she stated, "Well, I guess it's possible." She then asked if we found a bat as evidence. I could see that this conversation was not going to yield any positive results. As I was leaving, she stated that the report was preliminary and it was my job to figure out what it was that struck him, not hers. And it's interesting that she asked the LE if they found a bat as evidence. Now, a month later, on August 18th, 2015, Proctor noted that he was unaware of the so-called historical information Presnell referenced in her autopsy report, which memorialized the hit-and-run theory, and to this day, no such historical information has ever been produced. Proctor's case notes from that day included another shocking statement, too. The coroner stated that he had made contact with the pathologist, Dr. Presnell, and she stated that she would be willing to change her report to read however he wanted it. Proctor's notes read, "Wait, what?" Presnell was willing to change the report to read however the coroner wanted it? If this statement is accurate, Presnell should have been immediately terminated from her position at MUSC and never allowed to conduct another autopsy ever again. Because if that's true, every autopsy should be conducted before or since is in question. Seriously? Did she identify the cause and manner of death based on the evidence, or did she change the report based on external pressures? Because any forensic pathologist willing to change the report to read however someone else wanted it has shredded not only their integrity, but the integrity of their employer and the entire profession. So based on all of this information, it's abundantly clear an independent review of Presnell's autopsy of Stephen Smith must be conducted immediately, up to and including the exhumation of Smith's body from its resting place in Gooding Cemetery in Crocketville, South Carolina. Isn't that crazy? Sketchy as hell. So as we're talking about this, I didn't notice you bounced out there, Kitty.
Sorry, I was messing with my phone and accidentally kicked myself out.
So I won't.
I do that.
We can always go into this some other night, but I'm going to share this with everybody as I was doing my research.
No, you're good.
Definitely take a look
I was
at this.
hearing, I was listening what you said about her changing her story to what they wanted. That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. And it's sad. I don't know. I need to know who's doing this autopsy.
Why I said I hope they're doing something with they're not in that area.
Yeah, it's not good. So this is a Reddit post about Dr. Erin Presno was in another case where she missed important issues. And this link will send you down a rabbit hole of its own. So if you're interested in that rabbit hole, there is the link. There are other cases out there that are questionable. And I definitely wanted to share that. Happy hunting.
I don't need any more rabbit holes to jump in. I got too many.
There's a lot to it. I'm like, yeah, I don't have that much time today. I even made a new background for the show. Oh, this is the post I was talking. Okay, cool. Yeah, there's so many links regarding all those. All right, and this is a short video, them talking about the difference of opinions on the manner of his untimely death. We'll pause, mute the ad.
Homicide. We've been telling you this week about the death of 19-year-old Stephen Smith. His body was found in Hampton County in 2015. SLED is now investigating his death after information was found in the double homicide of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh in Colleton County. They were found dead earlier this month. Now, we received more than 100 pages of investigatory documents today related to the Smith investigation. Our Tara Jabor read through every single page, found some differences of opinions from experts. Tara, there seemed to be a discrepancy in the investigation of how Stephen Smith died?
Hey, Dean, that's right. Experts seem to be at odds over the cause. After talking to his mom, Sandra, yesterday, we wanted to take a closer look at what exactly happened the night that Stephen died.
Stacks of documents released to us show a flurry of back and forth in the investigation into Stephen Smith's death. We now know Highway Patrol found Smith's body on Sandy Run Road. What troopers didn't see was any evidence to show Smith had been hit by a car. Documents reveal no vehicle debris and no skid marks. An initial report only pointed to blunt force trauma to the head.
They said he was shot in the head. And then it turned out it was a hit and run, and then he was beat up. And so the story just kept changing over and over.
Documents also mapped out where Smith's car was found. That was 3 miles away from his body on Bamberg Highway. Highway Patrol found the keys in Smith's pocket, further adding to the mystery for Smith's family.
I'd be happy to see all this, laid out on the table, finding out who did it, why they did it.
Highway Patrol also sought more information after Smith's preliminary autopsy suggested that Smith was hit by a vehicle. An MUSC pathologist stated the victim was possibly struck by a motor vehicle mirror, which was the cause of death. Highway Patrol says there was no evidence to support that conclusion. Almost a month after this conversation in 2015, investigator Proctor spoke to the coroner about the final autopsy. In the report, Proctor said, quote, "He faxed me a copy of the report and told me that he does not agree with the pathologist, stating the victim was struck by a motor vehicle." And
nobody's agreeing. The pathologist was basically on her own. The case goes so much deeper than we can imagine, and that's for sure. And I'm going to go back to the video of Corporal Duncan, and he explains all of this perfectly, how this was not a hit and run. And this is as everybody was there at the scene.
Patrol mate reference to a collision in Hampton County on Sandy Run Road. It is a 2-lane roadway, level Sight distance not an issue. However, this collision occurred approximately at night, so visibility will be used with headlights only. Other ambient lighting in the area. As far as evidence here, there is only evidence of where the body was found. There's no car part, no any type of parts to a car or truck or any other vehicle. There is no body trauma other than to the head area. There is some scrapes and scratches on his left and right arm, on his knuckles, some across his face. Does not appear to be, in my opinion, struck by a vehicle, possibly something.
And
Oh,
new
come on, I
autopsy.
paused it. Jeez. So nobody's agreeing. LE was like, what are you talking about? The only evidence that she states in her report is that because he was found on the road, and all of the other stuff pertaining to contribute to the theory of a hit and run has not been produced. And like they said with that Fitz News article, if she's basically willing to change what the report says based off of what someone else wants, why is she still practicing? So I'm going to share this tab real quick. This is Susan Aaron Presno. Professor, Pathology, Medical University of South Carolina College of Medicine. So here's the link to this article if you'd like to have it. And also, here is another Reddit link if you'd like to check this one out. This kind of goes into the whole connection. No supporting evidence. And Presno refused to be questioned about how she determined that Stevens' cause of death was a hit and run. Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
This also talks about other cases that are connected when it comes to, you know, the funny stuff that she liked to do when it came to cases and findings and such, you know, what we're talking about tonight. But
That's
those are other cases. Yeah, it is, isn't it? And like I'm saying, when you start looking up the name, you'll see there's a lot of elections that were taking place in 2014. Okay, just check it out sometime. We won't get into it tonight.
Some of the stuff we talked about too.
Yeah, we won't get into it too much, but yeah, if you do your digging, you'll find out that there's a lot of elections that were taking place. Yeah, very interesting.
And it plays a lot in all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Especially when it comes to the stuff that we're talking about the favors and the pats on the back and the handshakes and all that stuff.
Yep.
You know, and this isn't the end. We still got plenty more to go into. And we got theories that are coming up tomorrow night and Tuesday night. We're going to be going into all the different theories and kind of exploring all those. So I can definitely use your help in those nights too. Your brains too, your thoughts, your opinions.
What days are those?
Tomorrow night and Tuesday night we'll be exploring all the different theories that are connected to this case. It'll just be about the theories.
Okay.
I
might be free for a little bit tomorrow night. I'm not sure what's going on yet. I might have to go into work for some extra training here soon, so since they won't get me they won't get who I need during my normal shift.
And yeah, SRB, a lot of it does seem to get covered up during elections. That's why it was interesting. As I was doing my research, I couldn't do too much into it because I was already researching all the stuff I needed to. And I'm telling you, like, I'm just on the tip of the iceberg when it comes to these elections. I haven't even went into it. I just noticed that there was little carrots dangling out there that I couldn't grab onto yet. But yeah, there's a lot of elections that were taking place right before the crime took place. And when it comes to their intermingling and their puppet strings with all of the stuff that's going on down there, I would, it's what we've been talking about. That's all I can say. It's a speculation channel, right? Thank you. I appreciate that, Pam. I really appreciate that. I'm busting my ass working on this stuff, giving it all I can give it. So I appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
Yes, you are.
Thank you so much. And your guys' help, the links and everything too. Now, this is former trooper with Aiken ties questions cold case connected to Murdaugh murders. Now, a former state trooper has cast fresh doubt, this is articles from a year ago, on the conclusions of a 2015 death investigation that is being re-examined after new information surfaced in connection with the high-profile Murdaugh family killings. Former trooper Todd Proctor served as lead investigator on the death of 19-year-old Stephen Smith, whose body was found July 8, 2015, on Sandy Run Road near Joe Miley Road in Hampton. He told Aiken Standard on June 24, 2021, he still disputes the autopsy findings and disagrees with conclusions that Smith died as a result of hit-and-run collision. These are LE professionals saying this. I've been on the highway patrol at that time for 15 years, and nothing about the case looked like a hit and run to me, Proctor said. There was just no evidence to support a hit and run. You just saw the clip from Corporal Duncan that we showed with the video even showing the crime scene. Proctor, who was born and raised in Aiken, was part of the Highway Patrol's multidisciplinary accident investigation team, which investigates complicated crashes and traffic fatalities. He has been interviewed by multiple national media outlets this week after the State Law Enforcement Division confirmed it was taking another look at Smith's death as a result of information uncovered during the probe of the Murdaugh slayings. Now, it remains unclear how Smith's death may be related to fatal shootings of Paul Murdaugh, 22, and Maggie, 52, who were killed June 7th at the family's hunting lodge near the border of Hampton at Carlton counties. The Murdaughs are a prominent family in South Carolina. 3 generations of Murdaughs have served as 14th Circuit solicitor covering the state's southern tip. Alec Murdaugh, Paul's father and Maggie's husband, also worked part-time for the 14th Circuit Solicitor's Office, which will have to determine whether to rescue itself depending on the outcome of SLED's probe. Isn't that interesting? There's another connection we didn't know about.
Wow. We just keep finding out more and more.
Smith's death was initially thought to be a hit and run, which is why MAIT was called out that day in July 2015. After examining a head wound Smith suffered, authorities suspected he might have been shot. Proctor said that MAIT team's involvement then ended and Hampton County called SLED for assistance. So SLED came out to the scene and processed the scene in the vehicle and all that kind of stuff, Proctor said. However, when the pathologist who performed the autopsy determined Smith was not shot and might have been struck by a car, Proctor's unit became involved again. It had been a few days since the incident, so Proctor said his team had to play catch-up with collecting pictures and evidence from the scene. In a report by Proctor from July 22, 2015, he describes visiting MUSC to meet with Dr. Aaron Presnell, the pathologist who performed Smith's autopsy. We already went into all that stuff of what he was saying. Now, The report stated the cause of death is blunt head trauma from a motor vehicle crash, pedestrian versus vehicle, with the manner of death being undetermined. After a while, Proctor said all the leads ran out. We kind of hit a brick wall. Every once in a while, a new lead would come in and we'd try and track it down and see if anything panned out. Proctor said, unfortunately, we weren't able to solve it. SLED spokesman Tommy Crosby confirmed June 22nd that information gathered as part of the double murder Murdaugh case prompted the agency to open the investigation. So you got the autopsy being done at the same place that it was first performed.
What it sounds like.
You have Fresno still performing when it sounds like she shouldn't be. And then you have Alec Murdaugh, used to work part-time for the 14th Circuit Solicitor Office, which will have to determine, the same office, that will have to determine whether to rescue itself depending on the outcome of SLED's probe. I hope that this case and this autopsy and all of this stuff is not another frickin' sham.
It better not be.
The more I'm uncovering stuff, I don't like the sound of this stuff. I really don't. Let me get back
to me, like the
that.
whole county down there is just kind of messed up.
If her work is in question, just think, yep, that too. But even beyond that, all the cases herself, not even ones that Alex didn't handle. All the other cases, you'll definitely want to hit up them Reddit links because you're going to, like I said, Pam, you're going to go into a rabbit hole and you're going to see all these other connections. I just didn't have time. I saw the carrots. I just couldn't grab them because my hands were full. I don't know. This stuff just makes me nervous.
Yeah, me too. Of all places to have another autopsy done. I mean, seriously.
Yeah, when anybody finds out who is performing that, can you definitely reach out and let us know?
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't even care if you put it in a video of a whatever comment. Reach out to us. Let us know who it is, because I don't know. It don't sound
It better
good.
not be her again.
It don't sound good.
No. If I was his mom, I would say get a different person. Whether she has any pull or not. Probably not.
Well,
Well, if they're hiring an independent, I would think that would mean they're taking it somewhere else, or there's a forensics lab that isn't tied in with the state there that she found.
I was thinking the same thing myself until I found out tonight it's being performed at the same medical facility, because there's got to be other medical facilities in that area. When you're talking about Charleston, I mean, I'll show you. You can't tell me that when you're looking at this area, you have 3 major cities around it. You have Charleston. Let me zoom back here. You have Charleston, Augusta, and Savannah. You're basically in the middle of all 3 of these major cities here. So tell me that you couldn't go to a different location. You went to Charleston when you could have went to Savannah to have it done. You could have went to Augusta to have it done. I guess that's Georgia. In Georgia.
Yeah, that's Georgia.
Well,
yeah.
Columbia. You got Columbia. I wish they would highlight the state lines right there. That'd be nice when you're looking at satellite. But I mean, I'm just There's got to be more than one medical facility that could handle this stuff too in Charleston, even.
You would think.
I mean,
I'll be keeping an eye on who's doing the autopsy. I'll be keeping an eye on that. Because I don't like what we're
there's not a
hearing.
medical facility. I don't either. You just can't tell me there's not another location. I mean, I don't know. I'm interested. I'm wondering if there's any interviews out there of the mother's response to where it's going to be taking place. I know it's all new because, hell, it was just a few days ago, and I'll post it up again. It was just a few days ago that this fundraiser, the GoFundMe, was created, and it's at 63,000 now. It hit the 63,000 mark now. So I'm interested if there's any clips out there or interviews of somebody asking her what she thinks about that medical facility, the same one that did the autopsy before. How she feels about that. There's a link to the GoFundMe if you want to visit that. And then again, the hate crime bill, if you wouldn't mind signing that. From Suzanne Andrews. Just standing for Stephen. The founder standing for Stephen. 3,221. So yeah, that's what it's going to be interesting, you know, with now you got the 14th Circuit Solicitor's Office. Yeah, my mind is sore from all this digging. It was crazy. As soon as I woke up until I started the show, it was the whole day. But you know what?
I love you too.
It's worth it. Yeah. Going to be very interesting. So that's pretty much all I have for the information. I'm trying to see. Let me see. This is, I don't know if this will actually work or not. Nope, because I'm not on LinkedIn. So I can't actually see that. I appreciate you hanging out tonight, SRB. And let me see here. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything right there either. So yeah, definitely throw some signatures this way. Definitely need some. I want to thank her for hopping in. That's in the playlist as well. So all you have to do is just go to the description. You can click on the playlist link, and then you can just save it to your playlist and start from the very beginning. Then get caught up. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of information in each video. Tonight, I just kind of, we're talking about, sensitive stuff. I'm going to share something here in a few minutes. So, but this is where the graphic part of the show is coming. So if there's trigger warnings or you're afraid of graphic content, I would just say go ahead and just call it a night on the show. Don't worry about hopping back in. I'm going to be ending the show after we kind of go through this topic here, this subject, this information, and just go ahead and say good night, and we'll catch you on the next show. I appreciate your support and your help. All right, so in about 1 minute, we're going to go ahead and get into the graphic information just to give anybody time to kind of catch up. and then give them time to go ahead and back out before we get into it. So I'll just be on for another 15 minutes or so, and then I'll go ahead and end it. I appreciate you guys hopping up on Open Panel tonight.
No
Thank you for
problem.
your thoughts and opinions. Are you going live after this, Kevin? You got anything that you're streaming, or you got another stream planned, or?
I'm not sure yet. I'm probably gonna do one tomorrow and finish up that bowl, but other than that, I don't know. I'm actually getting tired today.
I hear you, man. It is a Sunday too.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Let me go ahead and get this link. So this, I want to thank SRB for this. She reached out to me before the show and showed it to me. Now, I didn't want to take screenshots and present it like it was my own or whatever, because I totally want to respect the hierarchy of the information. And so, again, we do use videos of True Crime Design, and they're amazing videos, amazing information. And I appreciate that channel's hard work and dedication to this case as well. And so I'll put the link to True Crime Design in chat. I appreciate you, SRB. True Crime Design. And I'm going to go ahead and put the link to the community tab of the content that I'm using for True Crime Design, so that way I can make sure I credit it correctly. Give me 1 second here. I have to get her link again because I have to do a special message. And that just gives people more time to hop out before we hop into it. All right, there we go. I will put that up there. Content warning graphic, True Crime Design, and these are upsetting. So there's the link to the community post from True Crime Design. This is a picture showing loosely tied shoes still on your feet.
Is this him, CJ?
Yes, Kib Kitty.
These
These are Stephen Smith crime scene photographs that True Crime Design snagged from Netflix. They look real to me based on what I know about Stephen was found, but there are a lot of stock images, reenactments throughout the doc, so she can't be 100% sure as to their legitimacy. She couldn't find these anywhere else on the web, but I know that there are quite a few reporters that have access to the Stephen Smith case file, so I do believe these are legit according to True Crime Design. And as I'm looking at these as well, I agree with her opinion. Here's another picture. That's how his body was left. And I'm only going to show these for a second. The next pictures of the pants, shorts, the shorts. And then the cell phone, keys in the pocket, halfway hanging out. Somebody snoring?
I don't know.
Kevin, you there? You fall asleep? I think he did. I'm going to go ahead and mute him, and then if he wakes up, he'll message me in private chat. I can hear that. I appreciate that, Pam. Now I'm going to go ahead and go through these again real quick on full screen for you guys. And then I'm going to go ahead and end the show for the evening. So I'll go ahead and take this down, and I'll go full screen for you real quick. Thank you, Kib Kitty. Thank you, Kevin Kraft, for hopping in. Sorry you passed out, buddy. I feel you. Oh, these are so disturbing, but it's a part of the case we have to talk about. I want to thank True Crime Design for this again. And again, here's the link to her channel. Thank you to the video we watched from her in the beginning of the show, too. Great information for our show. I really appreciate her hard work, or their hard work and efforts into the content that we create, because they allow us to be able to create all of this brain stew that we have together. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Thank you, Kevin. Good night, buddy. And thank you, Kib Kitty. I always appreciate you hanging out. We got to get your icons fixed or something where they all match.
I know.
I see the poker
You
chip.
know, I had 66 million on Casino World, and my computer shut down, and I had to re sign in and everything. Well, then I lost my 66 million because I had to start over.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was very upset today.
Yeah, but you have that poker chip. You passed out, Kevin. And I'm into the show. You passed out, buddy. Yeah, but you got that poker chip on your chat bubble over there in YouTube. I'm sure you'll get that money back. Thank you for hanging out in tonight's show. Appreciate it. Thanks for your
You're
thoughts
welcome.
and opinions on the case. And as you do every night when you hop on, I appreciate you hopping on
Thanks.
lately. Everybody enjoys
No
it.
problem.
So,
Well, you have a
well, I'm
good
gonna go-
night.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm probably just going to go ahead and end it on a couple of video clips here, just kind of showcasing again what's been going on. And then I'm going to go ahead and end the evening and start heading to the sack early tonight. It was a long day of work.
Yeah, you need it. All right, I'm going to go down and chat.
All right. Have a good night. Appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out tonight. And thank you if you're watching on replay and you're giving the channel a try, or you're brand new and you're checking out the show. I totally appreciate it. I always appreciate the support, whether it's in live or in replay. So I'm going to go ahead and end it on this short video here. Once I can get it to load here. It's bugging. All right. This is from Grunge HQ. Sorry about that. This is from Grunge HQ. There's the link to the channel. And this is a video about the death of Stephen Smith and how the Murdaughs are connected. But, like I said earlier in the show, Monday night, Tuesday night, basically tomorrow night, and Tuesday night, we're going to be going into the different theories. We're going to cover a couple theories tomorrow night, and we're going to cover a couple of the other theories on the next night. So we're going to do two nights of specific theories. We're going to get into them. If you want to research Mark, you want to research Steven, you want to research Patrick, you want to research Buster, you want to research Colby, you want to research any of those people. And if you want to come up with people's names to research, go back to the previous show where we went over the theories and the interviews. I'll go ahead and put the link up to that video in chat, so that way I can give you a direct link to it. Definitely check those out. Write some names down. Look the names and theories up. Tell me what you think. Bring it into the show tomorrow night, and bring it into the show on Tuesday night. And let's start exploring all this stuff. All right, this is from Grunge, a little short 4-minute video. The death of Stephen Smith and how the Murdaughs are connected. I'm just not necessarily so sure yet.
The high-profile homicide trial of South Carolina lawyer Alec Murdaugh has brought up painful memories of the 2015 hit-and-run death of 19-year-old Stephen Smith. So what's the connection between these two crimes? With a possible link to the Murdaugh family, many now question whether Stephen's death was an accident or if it was yet another mysterious death in the history of the prominent South Carolina legal family. Because of her son's sexuality, his mother, Sandy Smith, thinks her son's death could have been a hate crime, according to South Carolina news outlet Bluffton Today. In 2022, Alec Murdaugh was indicted on 2 counts of murder for the 2021 shooting deaths of his wife and son, Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, on the Murdaugh.
And just to respect the creator, to pause it, because you have to do that. I totally understand, because I respect their hard work and effort. This is the reason why the case was reopened over a year ago. And so that's why we're ending the show with this video.
Family in Charleston. At that time, Alec had also been indicted on 2 counts of conspiracy, including 1 narcotics charge. In the investigation of Maggie and Paul's murder, Stephen's 2015 case, ruled at that time an accident, was reopened.
Well, it's not going to bring Stephen back, but I will have a peace of mind to know whoever did this is going to pay.
Smith family attorney Mike Hemlep told People, "Sandy and I both believe that this was a murder. If anyone helped cover up what happened, they should be held accountable." As Bluffton Today goes on to explain, in 2015, Stephen Smith reportedly ran out of gas on the side of the highway. Said to have been walking home at the time, Smith was struck and killed by the mirror of a passing truck that left the scene. According to the coroner's report, his cause of death was severe blunt force trauma to the head. No one was charged with the crime. Sandy Smith found many inconsistencies in the official version of events. If her son had been hit by the mirror of a passing truck, the glass would have shattered, but no shards were found. There were also no skid marks or other signs of an automobile accident. Speaking with Bluffton Today, Sandy said her son was gay, and there were rumors that he was a stalking target. According to Sandy, Stephen's potential relationship with the boy might have played a part in his death. She told the outlet, "I just don't believe my son would have been walking in the middle of the road like that. He would have seen headlights coming and got off the road. It just doesn't make any sense." Sandy alleges his death was murder and said those responsible might have been classmates, adding, "This was a fight that he didn't have a chance to win. I know my son and he was strong. One person didn't do this because Stephen would have fought back." One enduring question about the Stephen Smith reported hit-and-run scene is why Alec Murdaugh and his brother Randy, also a lawyer, were there, having crossed the crime scene tape. The Murdaugh family name was reportedly brought up in the initial investigation into Stephen's death, but those leads were never followed. Randy Murdaugh also reportedly contacted Sandy Smith after the accident to offer his firm's legal services, though the Murdaugh family law firm denies that happened. What Sandy believes might have been the motivation behind Smith's alleged murder was an alleged relationship between her son and another Murdaugh son, Richard Buster Murdaugh, Stephen's classmate. The theory goes that Alec and Randy Murdaugh may have arrived on the scene to cover up Buster's potential involvement, but there's no evidence to support that theory. This motive for the crime has never been explored, and Smith family attorney Mike Hemlep told News Nation there's also no evidence of them ever having a relationship. Still, for many, a Murdaugh connection can't be ruled out. As Fitz News reporter Will Folks told News Nation, there was clearly a Murdaugh tie into the death of Stephen Smith. Because if you read the investigatory reports back in 2015, the Murdaugh name is mentioned dozens of times. Meanwhile, a spokesperson for Randy Murdaugh's law firm told News Nation it was clear that this case was not handled correctly. Why? I can't tell you. Maybe it was simply incompetent. Maybe it was purposeful. But I do believe that the truth is going to... On March 3rd, 2023, Alec Murdaugh was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murders of his wife and son. If you or a loved one has experienced a hate crime, contact the Victim Connect hotline by phone at 1-855-4VICTIM or by chat for more information or assistance in locating services to help. If you or a loved one are in immediate danger, call 911.
And I want to thank them for that video. I always appreciate their channel as well. I want to say thank you to everybody for hanging out. I appreciate your thoughts, opinions, ideas, theories, speculation, everything that we include in this beautiful stew. I'll be back tomorrow night, like I said. Check out that video if you haven't checked out the theories and interviews. Write down some names, bring it in. Let's talk about it. We're going to be exploring each one. I'll put out a notification early in the day as to the two theories I'm probably going to be covering tomorrow night, and then we'll go from there. So I will definitely be putting out an early notification, probably around lunchtime or something. So thank you, everybody. I hope you have a peaceful and positive evening. Thank you so much for everything you do for this show. It really means the world to me, and I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you tomorrow night.